Hello, how you doing? It's me, Alex, and I'm back with a brand new podcast. Well, I say brand new, and I've said that before. Feels very familiar, that. But it's kind of an extension of the last podcast I did. And it is not kind of an extension on the last podcast I did. It is an extension of that. So, before I brought you just a podcast, and I can't even remember what I called it before that, but it doesn't really matter. Because it's now called Opinions and Stories with Al. Same catchy intro, though. I hope you'll agree. That's why I've kept it, because it is catchy. But hello, welcome to the new podcast, Opinions and Stories with Al. Well, what's it about? Well, it's about just that, really. Me speaking to you, talking to you, and also you talking to me and telling me your thoughts and opinions. Talking to me, a friend, because I am friendly, I think. I mean, obviously it's for others to say whether you're friendly, but I'd say I'm friendly. And when I get behind the microphone, I reveal all. I just keep chatting away. I'm a pretty chatty owl. But I want this to be a conversation. Me talking to you about things I'm going through so it might help you. My opinions as well, because I find quite often I get right opinionated on Facebook or on Twitter. Well, Facebook in particular, when reacting to something, a comment I've seen in an article, and then I react badly because it's a disgusting comment, but then that makes sort of me bad for reacting badly, and it doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help push what I believe in. But if I've got this podcast, I'm going to voice my opinions on it and let you know what I'm thinking. And I feel like that's a way to, mention things that I am thinking about subjects. So that's where the opinions comes from. And the stories, well, they're going to be a variety of stories that you've got for me, hopefully, stories that I've got for you, entertaining ones, and also maybe some that are less entertaining, but, hopefully when you hear things that I am, going through or thinking about in my head, then hopefully it'll make you think, okay, that's fine. Someone else is going through similar thoughts to me. Because I think we're all probably going through some things that are similar, and some of us will have different experiences. So I think it's worth sharing. And that's what I want to do with this podcast. I will make sure that I do not spread any fake news on this. I will only use reputable sources for the information that I give you. And I will never present them as facts if they're not. So we're not going to get drawn into any fake news scandals. That is for sure. So yeah, that's basically about what this podcast is about. Hopefully going to be doing it every week. But, it's basically going to be as and when. I don't even know what platform this is going on. I've had this idea floating around in my head for ages. And I guess I've kind of felt 2021 needs to be the year that this happens and that I do it. I'm not on the radio anymore, despite my Twitter and Instagram handles, and yeah, I want to be. So you know what? This is the year my podcast is happening. We may even be making a return to the actual radio as well. So who knows? But definitely, this podcast hopefully will be happening weekly, on a semi-weekly basis, or fortnightly. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully, you'll join me on this journey, either on the podcast hosting site, Anchor, maybe the Mixcloud as well, and hopefully on some streaming services. Fingers crossed. So yeah, I really would love you to get involved, and I'll tell you how you can do that a bit later on. But first, wouldn't you like to know what's coming up on the show? Well, this episode is called New Beginnings, because of course it is the start of the new year. And as part of New Beginnings, we are gonna be talking about some New Year's resolutions. I've got some, so I thought I'd share some of them with you. Also, thought I'd share a bit about myself if you don't know who I am. And it's all sounding. I understand this is all sounding really, really vain, and I guess it kind of is, because it's basically at the moment me saying I'm going to talk about myself, then I'm going to talk about myself even more, and then, to finish with a side of talking about myself. No, well, I promise it's not all going to be that. I want to share my opinions on a very recent story. I'm sure you'll have seen it. It's to do with the orange Muppet over the other side of the pond. Does any more need to be said about that? Can you guess what I'm going to rant about? Or whom I'm going to rant about? I'm also going to do an Al Recommends, which is where I recommend some music, some TV, a film maybe. All three of them, perhaps. A game, maybe. Although I don't play on games that much. Like, video games, that is. And I've got a really funny story later on, towards the end of the podcast, to do with alcohol. Well, kind of to do with alcohol. More the brand Brewdog. Anyway, yeah, I'll reveal all later. But now, shall we get into it? The first thing I'd like to do is give you some opinions on the news of late. So you may have seen the news on Wednesday night. Wednesday the 6th of January, you may have seen the news about the, I'm going to call them domestic terrorists, but a mob at the very least, of Donald Trump supporters who stormed Capitol Hill while votes were being counted to confirm Joe Biden as the next president of the United States. And in the ensuing rampage that followed, since that rampage, 4 people have died. 4 people, the latest being a police officer. And I think I can speak for everyone when I say around the world we were all shocked by this. I wasn't surprised by this. I don't think lots of people are surprised by this, given the man who has been running America, but it's still shocking to see that. It's not what you would expect from a, in quotes, the land of freedom. But since then, there has been talk floating around the interweb from various sources about possibly invoking the 25th Amendment and removing Donald Trump, the President of the United States. That's what the 25th Amendment would allow them to do. But it got me thinking, and it makes me think, how has this not happened sooner? How has this not happened sooner with the amount of scandals that Trump has, been reported to have been involved in? I'm not saying he has been involved in these. I'm just saying he's been reported to have been involved in many scandals. So, besides the storming of Capitol Hill, pressuring Georgia's secretary to find votes. 3rd of January, 2021, numerous newspapers, firstly the Washington Post, and then the New York Times, picked up that Trump was reported to have called Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, on the 2nd of January, in which he was reported to have pressurised him to find votes to reverse the election. However, it seems it is extremely hard to prove he has broken the law because he didn't threaten Mr. Raffensperger's legal counsel with legal threats. It's also hard to prove if Mr. Trump knew about the law and therefore that he broke a law. This is according to a January the 3rd New York Times article. But there's one example. Another example? His tax returns. Again, reported in numerous papers, the New York Times, The Guardian. In 2016, Donald Trump paid $750 in tax. That's $750, it's reported, that he paid in tax that year, despite earning millions from his various enterprises, the Apprentice, various companies and licensing arrangements. And then he hasn't paid anything for many years. One year, he even got a tax refund of $72.9 million with interest from the federal treasury to Mr. Trump. And I'm quoting from a Guardian article here. With the IRS, they've previously looked into his refund, and there are numerous other murky, dodgy dealings, including the very interesting purchase of a mansion in Westchester County. I mean, it's absolute madness. Just look into that and make form a view for yourself on that one. And of course, there's also the fact that Mr. Trump, Donald Trump, was said to have bribed a foreign government to help with his re-election. There was the removal of an ambassador, the American ambassador to Ukraine, and then a number of events that followed, where Mr. Trump and his allies threatened to withhold $391 million of military aid. $391 million of military aid already approved by Congress for Ukraine if Joe Biden was not investigated. And a whistleblower complaint that alleged White House officials had witnessed this started the impeachment inquiry, which of course was never, did not go anywhere. He wasn't impeached. So yeah, that's another article that's from the Guardian, 30th of November 2019. So those are just a few of the, those are just a few scandals. Some more recent ones, things that have been reported in the press. In my head, I'm thinking it's madness. I think after so many things, scandals and accusations have been thrown at him, that no one has gone and thought until now about removing him. It just never seems to happen. I think it seems like he's untouchable, really. But that is just my opinion on the whole matter. But those are actual articles and out there. So make of them what you will. But it's madness that he isn't. No one's got rid of him yet, I think. Maybe this time they will manage to get rid of him before he's due to leave officially. But yeah, I just think it's scandalous that he hasn't left yet. I think that's the biggest scandal. I think, the Republican Party have enabled him so much by leaving him in power. And lots of people have enabled him so much by leaving him in power. And I'd say by him being in power, he's been enabled to act in the way he does. And it's not a surprise that what happened at Capitol Hill happened with, the language he uses. And I've said enough now. But yeah, it's madness. It's madness. But hopefully he leaves soon. So that's all I'm going to say on that matter for now. I'm going to close the book on that. And now you know why I'm not a newsreader. This segment will improve of the show, of the podcast. So, we've done my opinion for the week. We've closed the door on that. First agenda of the podcast done. Now, let me tell you and remind you what is coming up still. Well, I'm going to be talking about myself now for a bit. Yeah, I know, so vain, innit? I'm sorry. But hopefully in an entertaining way. And in particular, I'm going to talk about my goals and New Year's resolutions, and also tell you a bit about me, because this episode is new beginnings, and I'm trying to really give myself a new beginning this year. I'm trying to put my all into having a good year, despite the madness that is continuing from 2020. But we'll see how that goes. I've also got a hilarious story about Brewdog. Yeah, the brand Brewdog. I've got quite a funny story involving that. I've also got Al Recommends, which is where I recommend some music, a TV show, a film, a game, whatever I'm enjoying, really. And I'm going to tell you what that is later on. I'll also, of course, tell you how you can contact the podcast, because I would love you to contact the podcast. This is our podcast. We are friends, I hope. And that is why I've got to tell you a bit about me in a moment. But we're friends, and I'd love you to contact me if you've got a story you'd like me to know about and speak about. If you've got something to share with me, I'd love to hear from you. So I'll tell you how you can contact me in a bit. But first, I kind of want to tell you a bit about me. So, yeah, New Beginnings, episode 1. New Beginnings is the name of the episode. It's 2021. It feels like the right thing to do. And it's a bit of a new beginning for the podcast. It's a bit of a rebirth. I am a radio fan. Let me just first of all say that. I absolutely love radio. A radio geek, maybe, if you will. I really want to get lots of the best recording equipment. I want to get lots of the best equipment to make radio shows with. I've got an Adobe Audition. I'm bragging now. I've got a nice microphone and a pop shield as well. I've never had my selection of radio gadgets so cool. I know I'm gloating. That's enough. But that's partly why I'm doing this. Also because I think I can make a difference by talking about things that I am going through to you. And you might think, hey, I'm going through something similar. I can relate to this. And at the moment, for ages, like since July 2020, I haven't been on air. I haven't done any radio shows because my mind just went last year ironically, after the first lockdown. Since after that first lockdown, at first I was doing well. I'll admit I got a new job last year, and I started it on the day we went into lockdown 1 on the 23rd of March. 2021, I started a new job. So that was really positive. I'm not saying it wasn't. And I was amazed that I was able to start a job in the middle of a pandemic. And then it was glorious for 3 months because it was the longest ever induction. The longest ever induction of 3 months where I'd log on to the computer, do a bit of induction-y stuff, training stuff. I was hardly on for many hours a day, 3, maybe 4 hours at most. And then that was it. I'd go and I'd be healthy. I'd do exercise. And then finally, in June, actual work was able to start. We were able to start training at work for the role that I'm actually doing at the moment. And it is an apprenticeship role, a nicely paid apprenticeship role, I might add. But when that started, I wasn't honest with my work, my manager. I wasn't honest about how much I was struggling, and I was locked away in a room basically myself, with myself doing it to myself. But I didn't go out. I stopped going out. I was basically glued to my computer, trying to get my head around what it was I'd covered in the week of training, because my head just couldn't get around it. And because I basically stopped doing anything, stopped going out, stopped exercising, was just sat at the computer for hours, like till 9 o'clock at like 5 hours after I'd finished. And that is not an exaggeration. Because of that, I'd run myself ragged, I'd say. And I have had a lot of, and I would say I've had a lot of issues in recent years. Not serious ones, but like I've got a lot of things bothering me. I'll admit I've got loneliness bothering me. I would love to meet someone. I'd love to meet a person in an intimate way. In fact, I did have a relationship when I was at uni last, doing a master's in radio, I'm mad, 2018 to 2019, and that went a bit wrong. I'm not blaming anyone here. Maybe it was my fault, whatever. I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just saying that happened. But, you know, I did learn the errors of my ways in terms of relationships. It was the first time I'd ever been in a relationship at all. So that was an experience in itself, which I wouldn't wish to get rid of. I'm glad I went and had that. But I'd like to meet someone else. I'd like to have a relationship again, because it was a nice feeling having someone else who was in your family kind of love you for who you are. So because I haven't got that, it makes me feel quite lonely. I'm the only one in my family, who isn't in a relationship. I also feel lonely in terms of friendships. I haven't got many friendships where I live in Bradford, West Yorkshire. I've not got many friends. They either were non-existent in the first place. I've lost touch with people, as you do, and then the few friends that I have had in recent years have moved away. So it's left me with not very many people round here that I see. I know there's a pandemic going on and you can't see people, but that just makes it worse, really, I'd say. Yeah, that makes it worse. So that I've got diabetes. That was a nice addition to that. Again, I learned what type of diabetes I had last year, just a couple of days after going into lockdown. Type 1 diabetes. I knew there was something wrong at the start of last year. Went to the doctor and found out I had diabetes, but for ages we didn't know what type, and now we do. But yeah, that's another thing that gets to me. So there's loneliness, there's lack of relationships, lack of friends, diabetes. The diabetes is a new one. The loneliness and stuff, that's been going on for quite a while. And it got worse with lockdown. There's my anger at how disorganised I am. I think that's enough for now to tell you about. Probably too much. But those are loads of things that I just have been going around my mind for quite a while. So, some of them for longer than the pandemic. And, well, since the start of 2021, I've been trying to fix myself. I mean, I've been trying to fix myself for quite a while, but I've been reasonably okay this week, reasonably good, although I guess it appears that I'm doing well, but then in my mind, I feel like I'm close to kind of just going screaming out loud because I've just got a lot of frustration within me. But somehow I've been managing to go on runs after work, partly because I'm working from home, which I do not like. I understand it's for my safety. I understand it makes us all safer working from home, but I do not like it. It does not work for me. I hate staring at the same wall 24/7. I feel like I'm in the same house that I work in. That's not natural. I feel for anyone else going through that, I hear you. You're either in two camps with working from home. You either like it and get on with it, or you just find it really difficult. And I'm one of them that finds it difficult. So I feel you on that. But I have been trying to refuse to continue in the same vein that I did last year. I've been trying to do things that are good for me. I've been spending less. Even my dad's money. I've not been going to the shop that much. I've not been buying so many chocolate bars. I got back into that habit at the end of last year, or in the second half of last year, and that was happening before Christmas. But I'm not now. I haven't this week, and yeah, so I'm refusing to continue, kind of, and I think I'm basically trying in my head to use the small goal of getting fitter by the time I'm back at work in the office, lose weight and be fitter by then. And the only way I can do that is by upping my exercise, going running. So I've done about 4 runs already this year, which I'm quite proud of. 4 runs, 4 jogs with a bit of exercise, so that's been good. It's kind of one of my ongoing goals. And I'm also trying to fix myself because I'm accessing help. I've got some counselling coming next week, so that's good. And I guess my message to you would be if you need help, you've got to try and access it, whether it's through your GP. And if your GP can't help, they might be able to put you in touch with an organisation that can help. Or your work might be able to help you. Maybe your work has an organisation. I don't know. But if you need help, access it, or try to access it, and keep pushing. Like, I did have some sessions on the phone last year, but I sort of towards the end I was saying I don't think these are working in the way I hoped they would be. So they've put me up a level. And now I'm going to get some one-to-one video help or help over video. So, you've got to push for what you need, really, is what I'm saying. Because a lot of people would say, and quite rightly, fair enough, a lot of people might think fair enough if they do. What's wrong with you? You've got a good job, you've got a lot of money because of the pandemic, because you can't spend anything. You've got a supportive family around you. You're living with your dad, who's really supportive. But why on earth are you unhappy? But you can't help how you're feeling. You cannot help the things that are bothering you. And if you need help, you've got to somehow try and access it. So that would be my main message to you. And then it's okay, even if you think you shouldn't be unhappy. If you are unhappy, get your help. I've got a friend who was feeling down last year. He's got himself the help he needs, and he's feeling a lot better now. I'm sure he won't mind mentioning that. I'm not going to say who he is, but well done to you, pal. It's nice that things are better for you, pal. So yeah, that would be my message there. A couple of my other New Year's resolutions, just to cheer things up a bit, and they're maybe not the best because they're not so measurable as someone pointed out to me recently, but there you go. I'm trying to kind of continue to use Facebook and social media less. I did a bit of that last year, and that was probably my most successful resolution from last year. I mean, I do look at it still quite a lot, but I don't kind of post on there as much, so that's an improvement. So I'm just trying to continue with that, really. I've also said I want to become a vegetarian as a New Year's resolution for this year. Slowly cut down the meat that I'm consuming, partly because it's good for the environment and stuff. That's not gone so well so far. I had that last year and that didn't go well, but I'm still trying to aim for that. I mean, if you don't put it down and don't try, you'll never succeed. But I have had pork pies and sausage rolls and a Scotch egg today. Yes, I am a greedy bugger. The health diet has gone out the window for a Saturday, which is when we're recording this. But there you go. Another random New Year's resolution for me this year was to do things for me, like to make me happy. I guess one of them. I'll admit it. I may as well admit it because one of the photos may end up on social media. I kind of want to dress in drag. I admit it. I kind of want to dress in drag, and things like that. I guess do anything that makes you happy. You should never be ashamed of who you are. Those are just a few of my New Year's resolutions. Not the easiest ones to measure. I've also got some I don't know, not vain, but kind of materialistic ones. I'd love to have some money for a holiday, a new car, a new bike, and a gaming PC. Like I've got there on my list of things to get this year. And then I've actually got some professional goals for the year to complete my apprenticeship and to be in a position to move out as well. So I've got a random bunch of goals and things I want to get this year. We'll see what happens with it 2021, but hopefully things do happen. Ironically, podcast and vlogging, I don't think they're on my resolutions for this year, but I'm still going to try that. They were kind of on it to do last year. Didn't really do that very well. But, there was a pandemic that emerged last year. Now we're just kind of trying to live with that pandemic, so... Anyway, those are a few of my resolutions. I feel like I've gone on about that for long enough. So it's time. It's time for me to talk about something else after this. It's 2021. A new year just begun. It may be full of the same shit as 2020, but don't worry, because there is positive in the vaccine. Here's to 2021, a new year has just begun. Here's to 2021. A new year has just begun. Here's to 21. A new year has just begun. It's time for me to tell you a funny story. So this is the moment you've been waiting for. This is the hilarious story of me and Brewdog. The brand Brewdog, yeah. Well, it all starts on a dark night at the start of 2021. I decided, while I was at my dad's girlfriend's house, we were in a support bubble together. It's allowed, COVID rules, you look it up. I decided to take a walk around a different area via a supermarket to go and get myself some beverages of the alcoholic persuasion. I wanted to get myself a few bottles of Desperados because I was getting desperate, and some Blue Moon. I'd had this on my agenda for most of the Christmas season and had never followed through with it. Until now. Until this day, the 2nd of January 2021, where I bravely stepped out the door in the cold, in the dark, in the ice, in an area I did not know, to head down to a supermarket I had never been to before. All of that was quite nerve-wracking, so before I did that, I wandered round the park with my headphones in to distract me from the scariness of the above task. I mean, to be fair, it's quite scary going to a new supermarket. I mean, it's scary enough when they move stuff in the supermarket you are used to going to, but when they move, when you go to a new supermarket, my crikey, it's nervous, isn't it? I'm not the only one who thinks that, am I? Maybe? I don't know. Anyway, well, we'll carry on, shall we? I approached the supermarket cautiously, checking I had my mask and my hand sanitizer with me. I did. I slowly moved into the supermarket, turning off my music but keeping my headphones in so the locals would think I was listening to something and not talk to me. I entered the supermarket, found the Desperados, found the Blue Moon, and then searched for the Brewdog that my dad had requested. However, the stress of being in a new supermarket, in a new area, had got to me. I picked up the nearest pack of Brewdog that I could see and rushed for the checkouts. I went through the checkouts, walked back up to my dad's girlfriend's house, and then we played a game later in the evening. It was during that game, over Zoom, with other family, that my dad pondered why he wasn't getting drunk on this strong beer. The reason, as his girlfriend chimed in, was, "Oh my God, it's alcohol free." Yep, that's right. I bought alcohol free beer, thinking it was beer. I mean, I didn't see the alcohol-free bit or the non-alcoholic part, but my God, what a dafty I am. Yeah, I bought non-alcoholic beer for my dad. He was not impressed. You should have seen his reaction. You should have seen his face. His face was just, yeah, he wasn't having any of it. He was not impressed, if you wouldn't be. So yeah, I managed to buy some non-alcoholic beer while looking for alcoholic beer. I blame the new surroundings on that, totally, and the new supermarket, and the fact that it looks so similar to the normal beer that you can't tell unless you actually properly look at it. So cheers for that, Brewdog. Can any beer company please just change the packaging so that your non-alcoholic beer actually looks different to the normal beer, please? I'm sure I'm not the first person that has done that. Surely I'm not. But if I am, or if I'm not, please let me know. Which leads me into the perfect chance to tell you how to contact me. On Twitter, Alex L on the radio. That's at Alex L on the radio on Twitter. Instagram, Alex Radio Lacey. That's on Insta, Alex Radio Lacey. Or on Facebook, Alex Lacey Radio Presenter. Please do get in contact. I would love to hear from you. I'd love you to tell me what you're thinking. I'd love to tell me if you made a similar mistake to that. You must have. Someone must have. Come on, get in contact. I'd love you to tell me. Someone has actually got in contact with me for this show to tell me what they're looking forward to in 2021. It's Geraldine. Thank you, Geraldine, for getting in contact. She's looking forward to going to Whitby, WOMAD if it's on. Also getting back to the Live Room, which is a local set of folk and roots music concerts near where I live. But actually, mainly, she's just looking forward to getting through this without catching the virus. That'll do, which is a fair shout, to be fair. I think we've just got to be grateful for the, well, I would say small things, but that's actually quite a big thing, really. But yeah, I think that's fair enough. Yeah, we just need to be grateful for getting through this alive when sadly so many others haven't. As hard as it is, it's a hard one. I know. I'm not saying it's not hard.
Alex recommends.
So it's time for Al Recommends, which is the part of the podcast where I recommend some TV, a film, music, anything that I really think you should know about. It'll probably often be music because I'm a music fan. I'm a massive music fan. And it kind of links with my love of radio. But of course, sadly, I will not be playing music on this show. But as I mentioned, if you would like to send me some copyright-free music, I'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to perform me something original that is, has no copyright issues with it, that'd be great. Please do get in touch, and the contact details will be coming up later in the show. So my Al Recommends this week is an album that came out, I think it was last year, 2020, I believe. It is last year when I got my hands on it, and it is Sleepy Jake, the album by local Bradford artist, because that is where we record this podcast, Sleepy Jake. And let me tell you, it's not what I expected it to be. And I suppose that's because I'm going on Sleepy Jake and the Duvets, the band that Sleepy Jake was in, which, yes, there was a blues element to it that I could hear, but it seemed a bit more indie than blues, or blues indie, but with a heavier indie influence. This album is certainly full-on blues. It has folk influences as well, but with a kind of a Bradford Yorkshire take. For one, Jake's accent is kind of gravelly, but Bradford accent, I'd say. He's clearly a talented guitarist. Ink in a Pencil is one of the standout tracks. It sort of has this really great, intricate kind of guitar-plucking melody, which I really liked. A song called Delius had this great electric guitar instrumental kind of break during the sort of middle of the song. And was, I think, one of the only kind of bits where electric guitar was kind of at the forefront. It's a fairly acoustic album, this album. And it's an album that, while the music is, I'd say, mostly jovial in sound, topics are very emotional, ranging from depression on Ain't No Shame, however, obviously talking about depression and getting people to open up about talking about it and saying there ain't no shame in that. Any Spare Change is a song kind of about, from a homeless perspective and talking about not looking down on someone, a homeless person saying don't look down on me. Poor Ugly Happy is, it kind of starts a bit sad. The character of the song is talking about having no socks and having, I think he's down on his luck, to say the least. And then it kind of halfway through turns into an Irish jig, kind of. It's really great. It's unexpected, and Don't Make It Better, that's also kind of got a fiddle in it, and you can really feel a folk influence in that. So I guess it's an album that's a bit unexpected, or it has things that you might not expect. And I love it. I really do love it. I think it's so great and it's so honest. Bradford Blues is such an honest track as well. If you are from Bradford, you will recognise what's said in that album. It's so true. You know, it's a city that has a lot of homelessness. I know lots of places do, but Bradford does have a lot, and lots of closed shops. I feel like there's more closed shops in Bradford than in a lot of places. But yeah, there's a lot of soul, to quote the song, in Bradford. A lot of people doing positive things. So yeah, it's just a really, really honest, great album of sort of quite a variety of folk and bluesy influences. Or as I'm going to summarise it, it's a belter of a Bradford blues album. 4 stars out of 5. That's Sleepy Jake by Sleepy Jake. That's my Al recommends for this week. Also, on a side note, I'd love to say I absolutely adore that new Taylor Swift song, Willow. So if you've heard that one, or if you haven't heard that one, check it out. It's on lots of streaming services. But yeah, Sleepy Jake, that's the main one I'd love you to check out. He's on all social medias. Check him out on there. Find him on Facebook, Sleepy Jake. And yeah, approach him, get an album off him, help an independent artist out. I mean, you should always support local artists, and I think particularly now in this pandemic more than ever. So yeah, Sleepy Jake by Sleepy Jake, 4 stars out of 5 for me. That's this week's Al Recommends. Once again, I'd like to remind you of the contact details. You can contact me on Alex L on the radio, on Twitter, on Insta, Alex Radio Lacey. You can also email me, alexlacey, Lacey, @hotmail.co.uk. There's Alex Lacey, radio presenter, on Facebook, and the Mixcloud is Alex Lacey Radio. The show will be on there and also on Anchor. I'll promote it from these accounts, so yeah, you'll see this. And thank you very much for listening. If you have, please, as I say, do get in contact. I'd love to hear from you. If you enjoy what you're hearing, I would play music on this podcast, but there's a minefield of rights to do with, you know, who owns the music and permissions, and it's just such a minefield that it's not something I would like to get into on this. But you know, if you've got any free music, if you're a musician, if you make beats, if you have got something that is totally copyright free, that is totally yours, and you're happy to share it with me, perhaps on this, please do get in contact. I'd love to hear from you. Once again, those contact details: Alex Lacey Radio on Mixcloud, @AlexL on the radio Twitter, Instagram, Alex Radio Lacey, and my email address, alexlacey@hotmail.co.uk. And of course, finally, last but not least, the Facebook page, Alex Lacey Radio Presenter. So please do get in contact. But thank you very much for listening. It's probably been enough for now. And have a great rest of your day, whatever you're doing. And I hope there'll be another show next week or in 2 weeks when we've worked out the production schedule. But thank you very much for listening. And yes, stay safe, stay following the rules, and take care of yourself and others. Bye for now.